Good morning, folks. It's Duncan again at Free as an Eagle. A little video to catch you up on the A-frame build. It's been a busy few weeks, and I was camping and doing some other projects, so kind of sporadic about putting time in on the build. I've been really wanting to. I'm kind of waking up at 3 in the morning thinking about the next steps because we took on a really complicated part. My brother and I have been working on this some over the last week, and we actually got it quite a bit done. I think where I left off, we had the plywood and the ice and water and this product called GAF roof armor. It's starting to rain out here. Actually, they predicted 2 days of rain, so I just spent some time mowing my lawn. My old lawn tractor from the 80s had finally pretty much given up, and one of the blades had actually just broken right off, and I had been through the process of rebuilding it numerous times, so I decided to order a new one, which I did. I was running it on one blade, so I needed to get one more cut out of the old one before the new one shows up on the 22nd, but my lawn was already out of control from not being cut for a few weeks, so I forced one more last cut out of it. And then at that point it wasn't raining yet, but now it is, and I'm under cover, luckily, under this roof, so I'm just going to do a short video to catch you guys up on where we're at with this. So Al was up here, and we decided to tackle the end rafters where the overhang is. So if I line this up, this is facing south now, on the end of the A-frame where the roof's going to stick out 8 feet beyond the actual main frame. I wanted to taper it back so it's only going to be out 2 feet at the bottom and 8 at the top. And that created an interesting challenge because dealing with these long rafters and the strange angles we were going to run into really became a bit of a trick. So what we did over here, there's going to be an 8-foot dormer, and right now we're looking, I'm going to back off underneath the roof on the other side where I'm out of the rain here. So the right side of this, if you're looking from the driveway side, there's going to be the bedroom, the downstairs bedroom to the right as soon as you walk in. And then beyond that, there's stairs to the basement and some other storage areas. Where I'm standing right now, I'm actually where the bathroom's going to be. You walk in, on the left will be a bathroom, then a kitchen. Kitchen will have a small dormer. So that dormer only involves taking out one rafter to widen it to 4 feet. This one involved taking out 3 rafters to widen it to 8 feet. And as you can see, so to get the opening we need, this dormer is actually going to be 2 floors. So the bottom bedroom is going to have this nice little bump out with a window and some light coming in. And then above it, that dormer is going to continue. So walls are going to come off that bottom plate you see and go straight up all the way basically to a system. I'll just zoom up slowly up here where you'll see staging. So the main ridge of the roof coming off that upper part of the dormer is going to tie into the upper ridge, so it's really going to be high. It's going to be kind of a cathedralized upstairs bedroom, and because in an A-frame the upstairs floor is narrower, it's a lot smaller than the downstairs just because of the fact the walls angle in. But to make it bigger, the dormer is actually going to go out the equivalent of about 12 feet by the time you get to the top, because this building is 24 foot wide. So that's creating a lot of extra room by bumping the dormer out and extending it up an extra floor. So that's going to be a challenge, that little roof system. But in a way it won't be as hard as some of the angles we ran into extending the overhang out, for the simple reason that when you build walls and then you build a second floor, and then you're going up kind of with another walls that go up to the ridge, it's going to be more like normal construction. But so I'm going to move down the other end. We'll talk a little bit about what we did down here. And part of the reason we took those rafters out, we needed extra ones down here, and we knew 3 were going to come out down there. Now 2 of the ones down here, actually, what we used is the rafters we took out. One of them went down to the other end with the overhang, and the others we doubled up because ultimately these rafters are going to support the upper roof section when we get to doing the dormer, and you need that support. The 2x12s double, they're strong enough to carry that upper upper wall sections that will support the roof up on that side. So anyway, now I'm down to the deck side, so I'm going to zoom back down. Okay, so you can see the deck here, and the deck's deliberately 18 feet wide rather than the 24, simply because there'd be no point in extending the deck all the way over where there won't be any standing room. And not only that, I didn't want the railings of the deck hitting these outer rafters. So I'm going to zoom up. One of the challenges of this, I'll look over on this side. Oops, I'm going to get wet. I'm going to zoom it in from under cover here. So if you look at the bottom of this rafter, you can see the others are landing on a plate at the bottom. All these others land on the wall plate. And we get out where the deck is, we're overhanging. So this took some jerry-rigging and real thinking here, more thinking than work actually, to get this done. Because to get the extra rafter on there with nothing to land on, with the weight of it and the way we were raising this up on rope and pulleys, we needed something to tie it into. So I built this silly looking box out of some pieces of wood, and everything's well braced so that that incoming angled rafter can tie into that rafter that's sort of hanging off beyond the deck, and that will all have enough strength to support itself. And at this steep roof pitch, we get a lot of snow up here, but man, you can see the rain starting to come in. I got to back off. So at this steep roof pitch, there won't be any snow load building up on this because it's too steep to allow it to accumulate, which is sort of good. But anyway, so the very bottom of this rafter, we calculated the angles, and they'll lean out of that upper rafter, and I'll just sort of slide up here to the top. Now those rafters tie in right there, and you see a gusset block across the top of those, or they tie into the ridge, and then when they angle their way in to meet at the bottom, you're down to an 11-degree angle in one direction and a 26-degree angle, or a 64-degree angle in the other direction, which at the bottom side translates into a 26-degree angle. One of the interesting principles in dealing with construction is when you have angles and they're at right angles to each other. For example, down at the bottom, that's meeting a piece and tying into it at one angle. When you get to the top, it's actually tying into a piece that's angled the other way. So the two angles always add up to 90 degrees when you are doing these sorts of translations. So the bottom angle that you have to deal with, like say those rafters are tying into that base plate, that's a 26-degree angle. So, and that can be cut with a skill saw, and it doesn't require any particular angle on that one. You basically just draw a line and cut it. And then on the other side, it's a similar situation. You got a 64-degree angle at the top. 64 and 26 gives you your 90. So you're dealing with always two opposite angles when you're dealing with these rafters. And so at the bottom, the angle of it leaning out toward the ridge there was 11 degrees, and then you've got a 26 the other way, which a skill saw basically maxes out at about a 45 or 50 on some of them. But you cannot achieve these small angles with a skill saw. We tried to, and we even jerry-rigging it and riding the shoe on a block of wood would give you a steeper angle, but it was dangerous to attempt that. You know, we ended up actually freehanding it with a chainsaw, which was pretty bizarre because they aren't really designed for ripping like that. But slowly and carefully, with a little bit of work, we were actually able to cut those low angles, and then I made some little triangles to kind of reinforce the joint. So you can see that was an interesting little project. So the first rafter out beyond the deck took a little bit of monkeying to have something to tie it into, which we did, and then we hoisted it up with a block and tackle and tied that in there. And we had some safety blocks. You can see that long board sticking out. That was basically a safety to have something for that rafter to ride up on when we were bringing it up with the rope, and we added extra blocking so it couldn't slide out. You know, the rest of these weren't too hard to raise up, but the outer ones here off the staging were quite a bit trickier. So all of this process, when you're working at these heights and working with weird things, you spend about 3/4 of your time thinking and planning and trial and error before you actually come up with something that works. But ultimately it did. So this was the hardest part so far. You know, raising the rafters was a challenge. We got past that. Then dealing with these angles is a challenge. But what I'm happy about now is that we've got these two outer ones in place. And then the next step, which I've actually figured this out. I don't think I'm going to grab a block and walk out there to demonstrate. I'll get soaked. But what we're actually going to do with those upper two final rafters, there's going to be two more to fill that space up there. And there's still about a 4-foot span in there. So we need to tie two other rafters that will be parallel to the normal rafters. And they've got to die into that angled rafter. And rather than have to cut those bizarre angles, we actually can put pieces across that'll act as headers that will go across between those two and only have one angle cut on them. And then the downcoming rafters from the top can land squarely into them. So it's a cheat. We're using the that angle principle I was talking about. Rather than have to do that really tiny angle, we're going to do a block that goes across between those, and then the downcoming rafters will just land into those, which I'll be able to demonstrate later. Trying to explain it's a little tricky, and sorry if I've caused any confusion. But anyway, that's the place we're at right now. We're actually dealing with some of the trickier stuff. Those end rafters and that overhang were something I wanted for sun reasons and for style reasons, but I didn't know how we were going to do them. So now we've basically overcome the difficulty. And then this dormer, having pulled those rafters out, the next step, which we're going to probably do when the rain lets off in a couple of days, is we'll begin to plywood this side. But what we're going to do is plywood over to that hole where the dormer goes to get some plywood on. They're going to drop a very large tarp down, kind of keep rain out of the house until we get back to doing the dormer. Then the kitchen dormer is going to be a little smaller, and we're really going to need to build both these dormers before we put the actual real roofing on, which I'm eager to get. I ordered a really nice kind of a forest green architect shingle that has variations of green that will blend well. I want this little cabin to kind of hide in here. Even though it's pretty big, it'll look a lot more muted when it's got green shingles on it. So anyway, that's where we're at right now. We're going to be putting plywood on this, building in these dormers. That'll be quite interesting, especially this large one. It's almost like a little mini A-frame of its own, just facing out the other way. The kitchen dormer, we were going to do that first just for practice, but now that we got this big hole here, we probably will still take it on for practice. It's only a 1/4 dormer. It'll be easier to build, and that'll answer some of the questions that we don't want to have to answer while we're up on staging, trying to build from there. So anyway, I'm going to head home and make some more coffee. It's definitely, the forecast was right on the money. They said it would be pouring by 9. I looked at the radar. I said, you know what, I got just enough time to get the lawn done before it gets any taller, before the storm comes. So I was able to get my mower back running and get the lawn out of the way, and now we're getting our rain. So that is it for today, and we'll be talking again soon. Hope you're enjoying following the process. Have a good day.